There are moments on the soul's journey when everything seems to fall apart. The love we once felt so deeply seems to slip through our fingers, and the connection that once felt so clear fades into the shadows of doubt and silence. But what if this persistent feeling, this constant presence in your mind and heart is not a mistake but a calling, a divine invitation to look beyond what's visible, to realize there's a higher purpose behind your pain, your waiting, and your confusion? In this script, we'll dive into the depth of the mirrored soul bond through the powerful lens of Carl Jung's analytical psychology. We'll explore why you should not give up on this connection and what divine and symbolic role it may hold in your individuation process. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "I choose to trust my soul's journey." There are moments in life when a connection with someone defies logic, distance, and even time. It feels as though a higher force keeps guiding two paths back to each other, even when everything seems to be falling apart. This intense and transformative experience is often called the twin flame journey. But when the bond feels fragile, when the pain of separation suffocates the soul, a question echoes in the heart: should I give up? This video isn't about empty promises or shallow hope. It's a deep call to look beyond the surface and into the wisdom of Carl Jung, who reminds us that the true reunion begins within. If this message feels like it was meant for you, leave a comment. I trust the divine timing of my connection, and get ready to see your journey through new eyes. The twin flame journey is, above all, an inner journey. Carl Jung, through his profound exploration of the human psyche, offers symbolic and psychological keys that illuminate this path. When we speak of twin flames through the lens of analytical psychology, we're not merely referring to the meeting of two people, but to the mirror that this encounter represents. The twin flame reveals what lies most hidden within us, both light and shadow. Projection is central to this. We project onto the other everything we haven't yet acknowledged in ourselves, our ideals, our wounds, our unmet needs and hopes. The intensity of the twin flame amplifies these projections, revealing profound aspects of the unconscious. When the relationship breaks or falls into crisis, we often feel abandoned. But from Jung's perspective, we're being invited to retrieve the disowned parts of our psyche. The shadow, a fundamental concept in Jung's work, is precisely this unrecognized side. The pain of twin flame separation often brings to the surface deep rejections, insecurities, and unconscious anger. Integrating the shadow is essential to individuation, the journey of becoming whole. Jung also emphasized the integration of inner opposites, the anima, the feminine aspect within a man, and the animus, the masculine within a woman. The twin flame frequently activates this inner polarity, requiring internal balance and reconciliation before any external union can be truly harmonious. So it's not just about waiting for the other person, it's about diving into deep self-knowledge. The external union is only ever a reflection of inner integration. In Jungian psychology, the shadow represents everything hidden within us, traits, emotions, and desires we reject or repress because they don't fit our conscious self-image. A twin flame encounter, due to its depth and intensity, acts as a powerful catalyst for projecting these shadows, becoming an unrelenting mirror that reflects not what we want to see, but what we need to integrate. When we fall in love with someone we feel is our twin flame, we're not just connecting to the light we see in them, we're also connecting with emotional and psychological depths we didn't even know we carried. The almost supernatural attraction is actually a response from the unconscious, recognizing in the other person the parts that need to come to light. That's why these connections are as challenging as they are fascinating. They don't exist to comfort us, they exist to transform us. Jung said that meeting one's own soul in another is one of life's greatest challenges. The twin flame shows up as a presence that activates our oldest wounds: abandonment, rejection, fear of intimacy, control, emotional dependency. What feels like a love crisis is really a deep call to look inward. The other only shows us what has always been within us, waiting to be seen and healed. When twin flames separate, it's common to blame the other or fate. But Jung's perspective invites a more honest question. What is this pain trying to show me about myself? The answer is rarely found in the other's behavior, and almost always lies in the deeper layers of our unconscious. This is when the individuation process begins most intensely. The shadow is not an enemy. For Jung, it is an essential part of self-knowledge. To ignore it is to remain incomplete. To integrate it is to walk toward wholeness. The twin flame, being such a close and symbolic mirror, challenges our psychological defenses and exposes our inner contradictions. It forces us to confront what we deny, including the shadow side of love, possessiveness, jealousy, manipulation, fear of loss. This mirroring isn't divine punishment, it's a sacred opportunity. Instead of rejecting discomfort, Jung urges us to embrace it as a necessary phase. The pain isn't the end of the connection, it's its purification. When we stop seeking salvation in the other and begin recognizing our projections, something begins to shift. The bond remains, but the emotional dependency dissolves. Love stops being a prison and becomes a portal for inner growth. In this light, giving up on the twin flame often means giving up on yourself. Not in the sense of continuing a dysfunctional relationship, but in the sense of abandoning the process of self-discovery, of understanding the real role the other plays in your soul's evolution. The calling isn't to insist on an immediate physical union, it's to persevere on the path of inner integration, knowing that external reunion will only be possible and healthy after internal transformation. Jung believed the unconscious conspires in favor of wholeness, and this includes the encounters that challenge our identity. The twin flame relationship, when lived consciously, teaches us that love is not just affection, it is alchemy. The one who wounds us is often the same one who heals us, not because they give us what we lack, but because they show us where we must go within. The twin flame mirror reveals the shadow, but also points the way to light. Only when we stop running from what hurts do we begin to transform who we are. And in that silent, deep movement, reunion stops being a hope and becomes a natural consequence of the individuation journey. Few human experiences are as profoundly transformative as the separation from a connection the soul recognizes as sacred. When the twin flame steps away, when silence settles in and the other vanishes from your daily life, what remains is not just the absence of a body or voice, it is a spiritual void that feels like it tears the soul. For many, that pain is confused with abandonment. But from Jung's perspective, that emptiness is a powerful invitation into individuation. Individuation, according to Jung, is the process by which a person becomes truly themselves, a continuous integration of all aspects of the psyche, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow, masculine and feminine. The pain that arises from twin flame separation is not just emotional, it's archetypal. It represents a rupture between ego and totality, challenging the person to stop looking outward for what can only be built from within. Silence, no matter how painful, plays a crucial psychic role. It interrupts automatic patterns of seeking, dependence, and idealization, and forces us to hear another voice, the voice of the soul. When the other stops responding, the soul begins to speak. What once felt like abandonment becomes fertile ground for self-discovery. It's in that space of not knowing that the dialogue with the unconscious begins. Jung saw suffering as a kind of ferment for inner transformation. Pain is not a mistake in the process, it's an essential part of it. Every authentic separation carries symbolic weight. It is a moment when the ego must die a little so something deeper can be born. When we lose the other, we are pushed inward, and it's in that descent, often desperate, that the real work begins. The initial instinct is to resist the pain, to try to reconnect at any cost, to reverse the separation. But through the lens of analytical psychology, this impulse is part of the ego's trap, the attempt to restore what was, without recognizing that separation is not an error, but a necessary stage of the journey. True love doesn't vanish in silence. It is refined by it, and often it's in the distance that it reveals its true nature. During this process, we begin confronting not just the absence of the other, but ourselves. Memories resurface, repressed emotions emerge, old patterns become visible. The unconscious uses the collapse of our defenses to reveal what's been dormant. This is when suffering becomes fertile. Pain stops being just pain and becomes the symbolic language of the soul. The twin flame's departure also forces a redefinition of identity. Who am I without the other? Where is my center when the external reference disappears? These aren't easy questions, but they are essential. Individuation demands that we become whole within ourselves, capable of holding our full experience without getting lost in another, without waiting for someone to complete us. On this path, deep insights arise, unexpected synchronicities appear, vivid dreams come. The unconscious speaks in many ways, and each sign becomes part of the soul's puzzle. Gradually, we realize that pain wasn't just rupture, it was preparation. We were being shaped for something greater, a more whole, conscious, and aligned version of ourselves. When Jung spoke of the journey to the self, the organizing center of the psyche, he was clear that it would inevitably lead through emotional deserts and dark nights of the soul. And that is no coincidence. Transformation requires silence, solitude, and deconstruction. The absence of the twin flame, through this lens, is not simply loss, it is initiation. So this isn't about enduring the pain while waiting for the other to return. It's about diving into it with courage, knowing that every tear, every void, every silence holds a message. It's in that space between what was and what will be that we find ourselves. And only after that inner reconnection can an external reunion, if it's meant to happen, be true and free, no longer rooted in lack, but in wholeness. At the heart of analytical psychology, Carl Jung invites us into a deep understanding of the inner polarities that live within every human being. He identified that within every man resides an unconscious image of the feminine, the anima, and within every woman an unconscious image of the masculine, the animus. These are not mere psychological metaphors. They form the foundation of how we relate not only to others, but also to ourselves. And in the twin flame journey, this process of integration becomes absolutely central. The twin flame often triggers a powerful awakening of the anima or animus. This happens because the connection acts as a mirror of our inner world, activating the deepest projections we carry around love, wholeness, and identity. The attraction we feel toward our twin flame is, in large part, the projection of these unconscious images onto the other. We idealize, romanticize, and turn the other into a symbol of our own inner search. And when the bond is broken or enters conflict, what dissolves is not just the relationship, but the image we projected onto it, and thus, the image we held of ourselves. Jung affirmed that the integration of anima and animus is essential to individuation. A man who does not acknowledge his anima remains emotionally immature, trapped in rigid rationality, unable to access intuition or sensitivity. A woman who does not integrate her animus may live dominated by destructive inner voices, inflexible thinking, and disconnection from her own power to act. The twin flame often brings these imbalances to the surface, revealing where we are internally fragmented. When we fall in love with someone we feel is our twin flame, what we are truly experiencing is our psyche's call to integrate these inner forces. It's not uncommon that during this process, a man begins to feel vulnerability, tenderness, or emotion he never allowed to surface before, or that a woman begins to confront her own strength, her repressed anger, and forgotten autonomy. The other, through their presence or absence, becomes the trigger for a deep psychic movement, reconciliation with our inner masculine and feminine. But this process is anything but simple. It demands confronting rooted patterns, inherited beliefs, and unresolved traumas. We must dismantle idealizations, both about the other and ourselves, to see clearly what's truly happening in the dynamic of the bond. The twin flame doesn't come to complete us, but to reveal how incomplete we still are. Inner reconciliation between anima and animus is expressed in our ability to love without dependency, to surrender without losing our autonomy, to create intimacy without the fear of dissolving into the other. This is only possible when we develop a conscious relationship with these internal aspects. A man who dialogues with his anima learns to listen, to feel, to flow with life. A woman who integrates her animus learns to take a stand, act with clarity, and trust her own voice. This integration radically transforms how we relate. We no longer seek in the other what we lack in ourselves. We stop projecting impossible romantic ideals. We begin to see the other as they truly are, human, imperfect, and still worthy of love. And we begin to see ourselves that way too. The relationship stops being an escape from loneliness and becomes a natural expression of what we've built within. Therefore, the external union with the twin flame is not the starting point, but the result of deep, quiet work that takes place within. When the inner masculine and feminine reconcile, we create space for a more conscious relationship, less driven by lack and more rooted in presence. There's no longer a need for control, escape, or drama. There is space for mature love, the kind that doesn't need to cling to endure or scream to be heard. Jung saw this inner balance as the birth of the self, the most authentic and integrated expression of the being. And it is from this state of inner wholeness that union with the twin flame, if it's part of the path, can occur, not as a need, but as a free choice. A choice born from awareness, not from emptiness. Carl Jung coined the term synchronicity to describe events that have no apparent causal connection but are deeply linked by symbolic meaning. These are meaningful coincidences that arise at crucial moments in life, seemingly responding directly to an inner state of the soul. In the context of the twin flame journey, these synchronicities not only mark the beginning of the bond, but continue to appear as silent confirmations that there is a higher purpose behind the experience, something that transcends the ego's control and aligns with a time that is not chronological, but sacred. The twin flame often appears during a moment of internal upheaval, an existential crisis, a loss, a deep yearning for purpose. The encounter feels orchestrated by a greater intelligence. The other shows up with such symbolic force that the psychological impact is immediate. It's as if a part of the soul has awakened from sleep. Jung would describe this awakening as a calling from the self, the organizing center of the psyche, which uses symbols, people, and events to lead the individual toward individuation. This is what many refer to as God's timing, a rhythm that doesn't submit to the urgency of human desire. While the ego wants quick answers, fast reconciliations, and predictable happy endings, the self operates on its own deeper timing, respecting each person's psychological maturation. After separation, it's not uncommon for synchronicities to continue appearing. Recurring dreams, repeating numbers, shared symbols, unexpected encounters that reference the other. These are signs of the unconscious, keeping the symbolic connection alive while the inner work unfolds. This is where deep psychology meets the spiritual dimension. Jung never fully separated the soul from the divine. For him, the collective unconscious is the field where archetypal images, including God, love, union, and purpose, manifest. So what we call the divine plan can be seen, in Jungian terms, as the symbolic expression of the journey to the self. And the twin flame in this framework is not just a romantic partner, but a living archetype that drives us toward growth, even through pain. To honor divine timing is to accept that some connections can only blossom when both individuals are aligned with their inner truth. It's not about waiting passively for a miracle, but working actively on building consciousness, while trusting that what is essential will find its way. In this context, faith is not blind hope, but lucid trust in the wisdom of cycles, including silences and absences. This trust is often supported by synchronicities that arise at critical moments. When you're about to give up, a specific song plays. When you feel alone, a phrase jumps out of a book with a clear message. When you need comfort, a dream arrives with powerful images. These signs aren't guarantees, but inner reminders that the process is still alive. They're messages from the soul saying, "You're not alone. This is part of your path." Jung believed that when two people are connected by a deep truth, their unconscious minds continue communicating, even in physical absence. That's why, even after long periods of separation, reconnection can feel as if no time has passed. But this only happens when true transformation has occurred. The reunion is not circumstantial, it's symbolic. It represents the union of two beings who have consciously chosen the path of wholeness. The twin flame, then, is not a reward, but a tool, a mirror that reveals, a catalyst that transforms, a presence that awakens the divine within us. Once we see it this way, waiting stops feeling like a prison and becomes a spiritual gestation. God's timing never fails, but it demands courage, surrender, and patience. And above all, it demands faith, not in a predetermined ending, but in the deeper meaning of the entire journey. Throughout this journey, we've plunged into the deepest layers of love. Love that transforms, challenges, and reveals. The twin flame connection, when viewed through Carl Jung's lens, is no longer just a romantic experience. It becomes a call to individuation, the path toward becoming whole, the pain of separation, the mirror of the shadow, the healing silence, and the guiding synchronicities all point to a higher purpose, the reunion with oneself. To give up on your twin flame isn't just to let someone go. It's often to abandon the integration process that this soul came to awaken within you. But by persisting, not in passive waiting, but in actively rebuilding the self, we open space for love to manifest more consciously, more freely, and more truthfully. If this message touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this today. And before you go, watch the video that's now appearing on the screen. It will take your journey of self-knowledge and spiritual reconnection even deeper. True love doesn't ask for speed, it asks for presence, and everything happens in the right time.